Hey guys, Char5 here, and today we are going to be talking about the 1976 film, I think it was 1976, Carrie. I believe this was the first adaptation of a Stephen King novel, and it's a movie that I actually quite enjoy. Unlike the last film I talked about, and I like that film. I'm going to be very quiet today. Just to make the contrast. But I probably saw this film for the very first time I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. And the reason I say that is because I know that I was still in high school when I first watched the film. And the reason I know that I was in high school when I first watched the film was because my uncle from California was over. It was at the time I was still in Mexico, and no one was able to drive me to school that day, so he helped me out with that. And my uncle is quite the colorful character, so he started giving me shit about something. I don't exactly remember what, and then he started quoting Carrie, the infamous "they're all gonna laugh at you" scene, and I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. I was just laughing. And then sometime, like a few weeks maybe after he left back for California, they were showing a horror movie on TV, and it was one that I'd never seen before. I don't exactly remember if I was the one that started watching it or if someone else was watching it and told me that it was a good movie or what exactly. And then shortly after "they're all gonna laugh at you" scene started, and that's when I was like, oh, that's what he was talking about. Okay. But all in all, Carrie was a movie that I'd never really heard about at all growing up. I think it might have been one of the lesser iconic horror films. And I only say that because I'd never really seen it in any list before or anything. And there was a 2013 remake starring Chloe Grace Moretz. The original was starring Sissy Spacek. And I think both movies are actually good. I do like both films, although I do prefer the original. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to like the 2013 remake as much as I did. And I mean, it's funny to say, right? Because I do think that the remake lacks and also abandons a lot of things that made the original great. And despite that, I still do think that it's an okay film. That being said, like I said, I did like the original more. And it's so funny because thinking about it before recording this, I remember saying to myself, I hate that people praise The Shining so much when I barely consider it a horror film. And in reality, Carrie's not much of a horror film either. I don't know exactly all the differences. I used to, because I love reading up on trivia after I watch a film. But I don't really know all the differences between the movie and the novel in this case. And I honestly, it really isn't a scary movie at any point. Like, most of the film is about bullying, and that's, I guess, what you could consider this movie. It's a social commentary on the effects of bullying in teenagers and in our youth, because most of the film is just surrounding this young girl who has psychic powers. Psychokinesis, most notably. Not really like she can read your mind or anything, but she can move things with her mind. And because she's so secluded from having a social life, she's very excluded from her peers. A lot of people make fun of her because she's so just unaware of so many things. Like, that opening scene, I think, is super powerful, and it really sets the mood for the rest of the film, where it's just her in a locker room with a bunch of other girls, and she gets her period for the first time, and she's freaking out because she has no idea what's going on. And then we get to meet the actual, who I consider to be the actual villain of the movie, the mom. a woman who is so religiously. I think it might be another social commentary on that. But like I said in The Shining, if we're expected to think the way Stephen King does, like, that doesn't really make it a good movie. But the thing is, in this movie, it's more black and white than The Shining as well. Like, I can make these assumptions. I can make assumptions that it's based on social commentary. But even if it's not, it's still pretty obvious that that's what they're going for, on how religion affects, sometimes the way we view things. And people can fall blindly into religion, not seeing maybe a bigger picture or seeing a more obvious reality. In this case, her mother was a very protective woman, and that made her warm to Carrie. But at the same time, she was very radical as well, to the point of not explaining what a period was and viewing periods as something bad when it's something completely natural for women Carrie's age. And as a result, like, all the girls around Carrie started laughing at her and started making fun of her. And what I thought was really cool about the film was that in those types of movies, when there's an outcast, you always expect to be like, oh, okay, there's going to be that one friend that, doesn't think of Carrie that way or is also an outcast. And no, there's really not that. In fact, it's the complete opposite. There are characters that are actually sympathizing with Carrie, and like, people from that sort of clique, let's call it, that sort of group that think, yeah, this is pretty uncool, what, we're gonna like befriend her and stuff. And there is one of the characters is nice to go out and like have her boyfriend, who Carrie may or may not have a crush on, take her to the dance, and the dude is 100% willing, and like, it's no joke whatsoever. Like, everyone suspects it, right? Everyone suspects, like, okay, you're planning something and you're gonna be assholes about it, and their intentions are 100% pure. And she's having a good time, and Carrie knows, like, okay, well, you and I aren't gonna be together. This is just you're taking me out on a date, but I know you have a girlfriend. And you guys are, doing this together. You guys want to show me a good time to make up for what a lot of people have been doing for me. And to me personally, that sort of thought process back in the 70s is really progressive in terms of a story and in terms of character development. And it all goes to shit because of two bullies that just couldn't accept that they were being mean, and that like couldn't accept that people wanted to help out this weird girl. Again, it's a battle of the extremes here. Like, you could see Carrie as the monster, but in reality, if they hadn't been mean to her, none of that would have happened. And that's why I think it's a social commentary on bullying. Because you end up liking Carrie, you end up liking, like, it's not even just about her, honestly, it's about the characters around her as well. Like, you see the guys going out and getting their suits for the prom, and you see everybody getting ready, and you see other perspectives. And probably my favorite character, aside from Carrie herself, is the girl who lets her boyfriend go out on a date with her, because she literally was like the only girl of the mean girls that wanted Carrie to have a good time, and everyone was being really nice until that one bitch like dumped all the pig's blood on her, and she was the one that caused everything. And I think they make that more obvious in the 2013 movie, and they give her a way more satisfying end in that film, I gotta say. But all in all, if we're talking about the movie being scary, it's not really scary. If anything, I'd say it's more kind of slice of life sort of movie with horror elements in it. It's a very interesting film to watch. And if anything, it's more sad than it is scary, because eventually, like, it's all a misunderstanding. People don't really mean to laugh at her. They're just asshole kids being asshole kids. They're laughing at the misfortune, even though her night was going amazingly. She gets all completely covered in blood, and, well, a lot of people start laughing at that. But there are people that, like, for example, her date who gets all pissed off about it. I thought that was really cool too. Like, I like that he wasn't happy about it. I like that he was pissed off, because that's a really kind reaction when you think about it. And her going back to her mother and telling her, "You were right," after Carrie had kind of punished her by using her powers, which her mother didn't even know she had. Ultimately, I think Carrie is viewed as a monster, when in reality, she really did. I'm not going to say she didn't do anything wrong, because she did kill a bunch of people, but at the same time, it's like she killed them as a result of them being assholes to her. And I mean, take that as you will, because I know a lot of people might think like, okay, well, that's still not the answer though. Like, I'm not trying to justify, violence is justified if you're being mean first. I'm not trying to say that, but Carrie was a very sympathetic anti-hero, let's call her. And I think the people that did end up dying got a pretty fair demise, except for the one character that dies at the very, very end of the movie. But this is the final piece. I had some difficulties drawing Carrie, because I again tried to go for the caricature thing, which I think I'm going to do for the rest of the week, and maybe again in the future for other characters. But yeah, like, I ended up liking how it came out, but I did face some sort of difficulties in drawing her, like the proportions and making it actually look like Carrie, because she only really has the one scene where she's even doing anything scary, and it's hard to really make it look like her. Of course, I was basing it on the Sissy Spacek Carrie, less on the Chloe Grace Moretz Carrie. But I think that there are sort of elements of both in it, in a way. But yeah, like, what do you think? Have you ever seen the movie? If you haven't, I think you should. It's a nice movie for what it is. I don't think it's necessarily scary at all. And in this case, it's okay, because at least it hasn't gotten the praise The Shining has. Like, if Carrie was in like the top 5 horror movies of all time, I think I'd be pretty upset about that too, because it's just really not a scary film at all. It's kind of a bittersweet story, if anything. And if it's a faithful adaptation or not, I still like the movie despite that. Although I think I have read that Stephen King really, really likes that adaptation. Anyway, this is the final result. Am I satisfied with it? Somewhat. I think it could have been better, but, for someone who is trying his best to not Control Z at all, I'm getting better at it, honestly. Like, I'm surprised that I've gotten into the habit of doing it when I'm doing these. I think it's actually improved my speed overall when it comes to doing art. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow with the next piece. Stay safe and stay awesome. This is Chara5, signing off.